The Holy Sword Project? The Prez nodded at my question. Yes, Yuto is a survivor of that ill-fated scheme. After everything that happened during the ball tournament, Azia, the Prez, and I returned home. The Prez and Azia came into my room, and the former began to explain the situation with Kiba. Up until a few years ago, there was a plan within the Christian church to raise an individual capable of wielding the Holy Sword Excalibur. This is the first time I heard of it. Evidently, Azia never heard of the project. It seemed to make sense that the people in charge would keep something potentially scandalous from a revered holy maiden. Holy swords are the most powerful weapons against demons. A mere touch can burn us, and a proper blow would prove instantly fatal. For God's faithful, who sees us as mortal enemies, there is no greater weapons. Holy swords. They sounded like the kind of thing you might have found in a video game or a novel. As a demon myself, to me, they sounded like the worst thing I could go up against. There are numerous holy swords. Each of them have their own origin story. But the most famous has to be Excalibur. Even here in Japan, countless books mention it. Holy swords are weapons created by those who manage to reach the realm of God through mystery of magic and alchemy. However, they can only be used by a select few individuals. It's said that only one person every few decades has the ability to handle one successfully. Kiba's sacred gear lets him create demon swords, right? Is there a similar sacred gear for making holy swords? I asked. In my haste, it occurred to me that if there was a sacred gear for forging demon swords, then there will have to be a similar one for creating holy swords. There are some sacred gears that could do that, but the kind of weapons they make don't compare to pre-existing holy swords. That's not to say they're weak, however. One of them is Longinus, just like your sacred gear. The true Longinus, the holy spear of the setting sun, wielded by a man who killed Jesus Christ, is particularly famous. The very word Longinus is said to be derived from that weapon. Longinuses. They were exceptional sacred gears with the power to defeat God. One of them dwelled in my left arm. Rias had just revealed that there were holy swords among the Longinuses. One of them was even the spear that killed Christ. My conversations with high-class demons had a way of suddenly spoiling the mysteries behind deep historical secrets. However, Excalibur, Durandal, and Amano Murakomo no Suguri, the heavenly sword of gathering clouds of Japanese legend, are especially powerful. No holy sacred gear can match those three weapons. The same could be said for demon swords too. I couldn't really follow what Rias was saying. It sure seemed like the kind of information I needed to know by heart, but lately, there was just too many things to remember. Yuto is one of the individuals artificially raised for compatibility with the holy swords. Specifically, Excalibur, Rias explained. Does that mean he could wield holy swords? I asked. The press shook her head. Yuto couldn't acclimatize to them. He wasn't the only one. From what I heard, all of his fellow test subjects proved incapable. So even Kiba, with his exceptional swordsmanship and mastery of so many different demon swords, couldn't wield a holy sword. When the church officials learned that Yuto and the other test subjects were incompatible, they branded them as defective and disposed of them, Reese continued. That didn't sit well with me. It was difficult to imagine what someone would be foreboding meant. The Prez narrowed her eyes, as if recalling something discomforting. Many of the test subjects, Yuto included, were killed simply because they weren't compatible with those accursed weapons. How could they do something like that? No servant of the Lord would be willing to engage in such cruelty. This all had to come as a considerable shock to Azia. Her eyes were moist with tears. Crying seemed like a natural reaction, after learning that a group that you believed in so wholeheartedly had betrayed its ideals so radically. Those people in the church like to call demons evil, but if you ask me, there's no greater evil than human malice. The Prez's eyes were tinged with sorrow. Rias may have been a demon, but she was a gentle soul. Maybe you could say that she had lived in the human world for so long that she had developed human emotions. But there was more to it than that. She was a naturally kind woman. That much was obvious after witnessing her gentle smile. Even among demons, they were caring people. At least, that's how it seemed to me. When I had arrived to revive Yuto as a demon, he swore vengeance even as he stood on the verge of death. From the moment of his birth, his talents had been wasted on holy swords. I wanted to give the chance to put his skill to proper use as a demon. His swordsmanship was too good to be wasted on holy swords. The Prez must have wanted to save Kiba and offer him a new life as a demon to make up for that holy swords that had made him so miserable. She told him to forget about those weapons and live a life as a demon. Unfortunately, he couldn't forget, Rias admitted. Not about the holy swords, the people involved in the project, or those from the church. That explains Kiba's hatred of priests and why he was so obsessed with information revolving holy swords. He clung tight to revenge. I could understand, though. Those he trusted had toyed with and killed him when they were done. After that fallen angel had killed me, I sure held a grudge against her. Seeing as the church had been doing all that to Kiba at such a young age, his enmity definitely ran deep. The Prez let out a deep sigh. Anyway, I'll keep an eye on him for a while. Right now, his mind is stuck on thinking about those holy swords. I hope he returns to his usual self soon. Oh, right, about that. I think it was this picture that set him off, I said, handing the photograph in question to Rias. Kiba called the wooden practice blade in the image a holy sword. It had to be what set him off. The President looked over the photo and raised an eyebrow. Issei, do you know anyone affiliated with the church? None of my relatives are. I had even asked my parents, just to make sure. But I think a Christian kid used to live around here when I was really little. So I was right. To think that the Holy Swords was here only a decade ago. It's a terrifying thought. Seriously? Is that thing really a holy sword? Yes. It isn't as powerful as the 3 legendary ones I mentioned earlier, but there's no mistaking the real thing. The man in the picture must be its wielder. It all makes sense now. I always knew my predecessor in this region had been destroyed, and this explains that. But as I recall, the Prez's voice softened as she began to mumble to herself. It looked like she hit upon something important. She remained that way for a while before declaring, "We should get some rest. Dwelling on this won't help Yuto." Having said her piece, Rias began to strip off her clothes. "Prez, what are you doing?" I exclaimed. She was already down to her underwear when she replied, "What am I doing? You know I can't sleep unless I'm naked, Issei." No, not that. In my room, I mean." It was all I could do to stammer out a question as I looked Rias up and down. No matter how many times I saw it, that body of hers was amazing. She even removed her bra to let her breasts pop out. "I'm sleeping with you tonight, of course," Rias stated plainly. Blood spurted out from my nose. Whoa! A girl just said that she wants to sleep with me? Then I'm staying the night here too. I want to sleep with Issei. Now it was Ozzy's turn to start undressing. Hey. You don't know how happy it makes me to hear you say that. But you can't. You can't start copying the Prez. Prez, you have to stop being a bad influence on Azia. Please put your clothes back on. Rias frowned at my outburst. A bad influence? That's a mean way to put it, Issei. You already know that I sleep naked. We've done it before several times. Azia recoiled in shock. How many times? The president and Issei. She began to tremble. Large tears welled in her eyes over the sheer magnitude of this revelation. Hold on. Just what is going on here? Azia, let me have Issei tonight, Rias requested. No. I've earned the right to spoil Issei too. I want to sleep with him. Azia, do you really want me that much? It was a complicated feeling, but I was overjoyed to hear that. Her eyes were damp, but they burned with a strong resolve. You could practically hear them say, I won't back down. Whoa, 2 girls are fighting over me in my room. Please stop it, you two. They continued to glare at each other, their gazes all but setting sparks flying. Caught in the middle, I was finding it hard to breathe. Seriously, I needed air. How about we let Issei decide? The Prez said, casting her gaze towards me. Rias' eyes were demanding that I pick her. Talk about putting me under pressure. Issei, you're going to choose me, right? Azia entreated with a glistening look. The seriousness of her words nearly brought me to my knees. Whichever one I picked, the other will resent me. I held my head in my hands. This was the hardest choice I ever faced in my life. Phew. I went down to the kitchen to get a glass of water and to catch my breath. In the end, the 3 of us had settled on a compromise. I would sleep together with the both of them. Naturally, I asked the Prez to wear pajamas just for one night. Since she's wearing clothes, Azia did as well. Rias' influence was really turning Azia into an erotic young woman. I wasn't exactly unhappy about it, but my feelings for her was growing complicated. I had to protect Azia, but she had been acting so sensual and suggestive around me lately. Perhaps it was a good thing, but I still feel guilty over it. My tiny brain couldn't handle this. The Prez and Azia slept on either side of me that night. It was a dream come true. Seriously, what could have possibly been better? For a guy, it was the absolute best. Unfortunately, if I had laid a hand on Rias, Azia would get mad at me. But if I did anything to Azia, my conscience would torment me for the rest of my life. It was killing me. Somehow, I got myself stuck in limbo. I held my head in my hands, weeping with regret. No way was I gonna be able to get any sleep with these 2 beauties flanking me. Resisting the urge to touch their breasts and stroke their thighs, I made my way downstairs at the earliest opportunity. As far as I could tell, they were both sound asleep. Damn, I wanted to do it with them both so badly. Aren't my teenage years supposed to be the most vigorous and romantic time of my life? I cursed myself for not giving in to sampling all of their sensual delights that had been at my fingertips. There's nothing wrong with a threesome, right? Group sex was given in a harem. It was supposed to be a piece of cake. If I couldn't even manage that much, was I really fit to have my own harem? If I truly had any talent for this kind of thing, I would have been drowning myself in a sea of pleasure with Rias and Azia. That sleepless night had taught me the horrible truth. Even faced with 2 girls in the same bed, I'd been unable to act on my masculine impulses. The Prez was within my grasp, and I still didn't touch her. Azia was right there too, but I'd never forgive myself if I defiled her. What had paralyzed me so? Could it have been inexperience? Had my virginity been the cause? Damn it all! My head was practically spinning with hypotheticals of how things could have gone. Which of you 2 should I pleasure today? Master Issei, choose me. Shower me with your mercy. What are you saying? I'm a lascivious creature who can't stand living without my master. Please choose me. Get out of my way. Please, Issei. I can't hold it back anymore. Please, fill me up and satisfy me. Come on now. Cut me some slack. I've only got one body, you know. We'll all take turns. Let's decide who goes first in a game of rock, paper, scissors, my darlings. A perfect scene was playing out in my mind. Tears streamed down my cheeks. In the end, it was nothing more but a wild illusion. I wondered when I'll finally get a taste of my first sexual experience. It seemed about that time for me to know the embrace of a woman. Surely, that was right around the corner. I couldn't even count how many times I've seen bare breasts after all. The next step was a big one though. Why did this have to happen to me?
Yo, kid. Sorry to bother you.
Of all things that could have happened at that moment, I never would have guessed it would have been a call from him. Something dwelled inside my left arm, contained within my boosted gear. It was the Welsh dragon Drake, the Red Dragon Emperor. He'd made his presence known back during the raiding game against Riser Phoenix. Because of him, I was able to use my Sacred Gear's ultimate power, its Balance Breaker. With that new power, I've been able to defeat Riser and end Rias' engagement to him. In exchange, I surrendered my left arm to the Welsh dragon as payment. Rias and Akeno found a way to return my transform arm back to normal, but it required regularly dispelling the dragon's power that built up in it. I tried to talk to the Welsh dragon since the raiding game, but he never answered. It was like he was avoiding me.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I won't disappear this time. We need to talk.
I sat down on the sofa in the living room. What do you want all of a sudden? I asked.
Come on now. Don't say it like that.
Maybe the dragon power is building up inside me again. That could have explained why the Welsh dragon's suddenly reaching out to me. As it happened, Akeno was scheduled to release the power tomorrow. I was looking forward to it. Her method was super erotic. Before I realized it, drool was trickling down my chin.
I see your head is full of raunchy thoughts as ever.
Drake muttered with a sigh. Shut up. This is a sensitive time for me. Anyway, what do you want to tell me?
We can talk about the fairer sex if you prefer.
You were listening to me?
Well, you and I are always together. It's hard to ignore.
So he heard everything. As if it wasn't bad enough, it seemed like Drake could read my mind, at least to a certain extent.
Gremories and her familias are known to especially forecoming to their affections. Your master and her servant are no exception there. Ria's Gremory, in particular, seems to have taken a great liking to you. It would appear that her adoration for you runs deep.
Yeah, well, she does like to dote on me. I agreed bashfully. It was true that Rias was incredibly affectionate towards me. That had only increased since my victory against Riser. Come to think of it, she had been embracing me in front of the other club members. Her familia. She even kissed me on the cheek now and then. I enjoyed her displays of tenderness, but they did get embarrassing at times. I didn't know how to handle her.
You're at the right age to learn what it means to love. You're better off gaining experience sooner rather than later. You never know when the white one might decide to show his face.
Actually, I've wanted to ask you about that for a while. Just who exactly is the white one?
The White Dragon, also known as the Vanishing Dragon.
The Vanishing Dragon? Drake was the Welsh dragon. Did that mean there was some kind of connection? Drake is also called the Red Dragon Emperor, so by White Dragon he means... As I ruminated, Drake continued to explain.
You know there is the three-sided war against God and his angels, the fallen angels, and the demons a long time ago, right?
Yeah. The president and the other members of her familia explained that to me. The basics of it, anyway.
There were a number of other powerful beings who lent their strength to one side. Fairies, spirits, monsters, and phantoms from both Western and Eastern traditions, and even humans. Dragons were one who didn't formally align themselves with anyone.
Why not? I pressed.
Why indeed? I don't really recall anymore. But we dragons are powerful and particularly free-spirited and selfish. Some of us chose to side with the demons or the forces of God. But the vast majority didn't care to pay any heed to the war and simply did as we pleased.
Dragons certainly sounded like annoying creatures. Drake was making them out to be completely careless.
Anyways, in the midst of that three-way conflict, two stupid dragons went and started a massive fight. They weren't just any old dragons either. These were the two most powerful ones to have ever lived. Their strength rivaled that of God and the Demon King. Unconcerned with the war raging beneath them, those two dragons plowed through the three factions without so much of a second thought. As far as angels, fallen angels, and demons were concerned, there couldn't have been even a more middling obstacle. All three groups are earnestly fighting to conquer the world. And these two dragons were laying waste to the battlefield with no thought but for themselves.
Those two dragons sounded like a real pain in the ass. What did they have to fight over?
Well, I doubt it was anything important. They probably didn't even remember what started it themselves by the stage. Faced with a common threat, for the first time in history, all three sides joined together. You could probably guess what they were thinking.
We can't finish this war unless we get rid of those two dragons first. Let's team up to take them down. An alliance of bitter rivals, huh? Plus, it was a fight between dragons that brought them together. That must have been a complex situation.
The two dragons were incensed with the trio of armies interrupted their fight. Who dares to oppose us, they thought. Neither angel nor demon will interrupt our duel. And so, the dragons struck back like a pair of idiots. They tried to devour God, the Demon King, and the chief of the fallen angels. You could probably guess how big of a mistake that was.
Those dragons sounded like the worst, the lowest of the low. It was becoming increasingly clear, however, that those two dragons were...
In the end, the two of them were carved into pieces, and their souls got sealed into human bodies as sacred gears. Even so, the two dragons continue to fight each other from time to time, using their new human vessels as intermediaries. On each occasion, only one would emerge alive. Every now and then, one of them would perish before they could even meet, averting a fight, but it almost always ended in direct conflict. When a mortal vessel perished, the dragons, now sacred gears, would become inactive until the birth of their next bearer. Things have continued like that for eons.
This is you and the vanishing dragon we're talking about, right? I asked.
Yeah, this time you're my host, and a demon to boot. It's been a long while since I had a bearer like you. I'm looking forward to see how this plays out.
I was never asked if I wanted to be a vessel, and Drake had already decided how my life would go. If nothing else, I thought it would be best to let him know exactly what I hoped to achieve too. I cleared my throat before loudly declaring, "Listen up, Drake. I'm going to ascend to the rank of a high-class demon and become the harem king. My dream is to amass a familia of female demon servants. They will be my own private army of incredible beauties." Drake remained silent for a moment before breaking out into a loud laugh.
I've never had a host with dreams like that. Most of them have been too proud, power hungry, or cowardly to live a decent life.
Huh? Is there something wrong with me? Am I strange?
You're definitely strange, but there's nothing wrong with you. In any event, you are possessed by a dragon. Dragons have been a symbol of power throughout all lands, across all ages. Even if they come in different shapes and sizes, cultures worldwide have produced images and carvings of dragons. No, humans have admired us, paid homage to us, and feared us since time immemorial. Dragons unwittingly attract the attentions of those around us. I suppose you could say that the strong gather at our feet. The power of the dragon will lead you to many who yearn to be with you, and just as many who wish to test your might.
That sounds pretty inconvenient, actually. Aren't you saying that a lot of guys are gonna come after me because of you? I asked.
To fight those drawn to strength and power. That is the fate of the vessel of the Dragon Emperor. There is no need to despair, though. Women will flock to your arms too.
Seriously?
Yes, seriously. My hosts have always been surrounded by members of the opposite sex. They were what you might call irresistible. They never had any trouble in that respect.
So, they could call one girl after another?
There were those who slept with a different women each night.
What? My predecessors got to do all kinds of things? That's incredible. Wonderful. Whoa. A cry of joy echoed throughout my heart. This was amazing. Seriously amazing. Whoa. Seriously? You, Dragon, Master Drag. I didn't realize you were such an awesome sacred gear. I bowed my head to my left arm, murmuring words of obeisance and respect. People had told me that the boosted gear was impressive, but I always had my doubts. This was a fantastic revelation.
And now you're addressing me with the respect. I can safely say I've never had such a self-serving vessel.
Well, I'm in no position to be disrespectful to you now, Master Drake. Thank you for your continued guidance and encouragement, sir.
You're a strange kid, but you will prove to be interesting, I'm sure. In any event, let's not let the vanishing dragon get the better of us. Do you hear me?
Is he that strong?
He is. Originally, our power was enough to surpass God or even the Demon King. A curse was placed on us when we were sealed in these sacred gears, and now it's extremely difficult for us to unleash our full potential. That said, you won't need my full power to destroy even the greatest of demons or fallen angels.
In that case, if I and whoever became the vessel of the vanishing dragon could master our sacred gears, we would become that much stronger. To be honest though, I wasn't at all interested in defeating God or any of the current demon kings. The idea of using that power to become a demon king and amass an entourage of beautiful ladies was an appealing one, however. While I was already at odds with the fallen angels, I didn't want to meet any of their leaders. Unfortunately, it sounded like meeting the vanishing dragon one day was unavoidable. I could only guess at the identity of the other vessel. It was likely someone I never met, but I thought it would be nice if it was a girl. Even if we were fated to do battle, I still wanted to live my life to the fullest. No dragon was going to get in my way. I was going to put my all into holding my own against the vanishing dragon. Anyway, my goal right now is the Prez's breasts.
What? Groping them?
No, sucking them. I had laid my deepest desire bare. For some reason, that shut up the Red Dragon Emperor. Had I rendered him speechless? Paying him no mind, I continued. To touch the Prez's breasts, I could still feel them in my hand. If I had the chance, I would have fondled them all day long. She might even let me. She did say she would give me a generous reward, but that's not enough. As a man, I had to aim higher. Guys who were satisfied with fondling breasts are second rate. That's why I'm gonna suck on them.
Right. Well, good luck with that.
Drake sounded like he was truly shocked by my oath. Still, I was perfectly serious. Drake, I'm going to need your power again.
To help you suck on a woman's teat? I've fallen lower than I thought. But it does sound like an amusing diversion. It's good to have a partner like you once in a while.
Drake sounded somewhat resigned to his fate, but he went along with my request. In a weird way, he seemed to take a slightly elevated view on things sometimes. Alright, then let's do this, partner.
Very well then, partner.
So it was that the Red Dragon Emperor and I made a midnight vow to accomplish a new set of goals. Removing dragon power from my body required a high-ranking demon who would suck it out and neutralize it. There were several ways to do this from what I gathered, but the simplest and most reliable way was apparently to extract it directly from my body. The method used was, well, how should I put this? Incredibly stimulating for a sex-obsessed high schooler like me. The only two demons I knew that were strong enough to do this were Rias and Akeno. They took turns sucking the power out of me on a regular basis. It was time for my next session, so I'd gone to Akeno's room on the second floor of the old school building. The space used to be a classroom, but the floor had been converted into tatami mats and now resembled a traditional Japanese-style room. Strange symbols that resembled magic insignias decorated the place, as did a number of objects that looked like they were used for casting maledictions. I was waiting at the center of the room, naked from the waist up. Beneath me was a magic circle. Apparently, it was a necessary component of the ritual. From what I was told, removing my shirt was also an essential part of the process. The door to the room swung open as a figure stepped inside. It was Akeno. She was dressed in a loose white gown. Her hair, naturally tied into a ponytail, was hanging loose and free. She wore it down every time we did this. It was pretty bewitching and enthralling, actually. She flashed me a brief smile, before quietly sitting opposite me with a mysterious look. "We're ready. Shall we get started?" she asked. Akeno?" The white gown she was wearing was soaked with water. Her long dark hair was clinging to her body too. It was incredibly sensual. I could practically see her through her clothes. Witnessing Akeno like that forced a certain masculine phenomenon to overtake me. I could see it, right through her gown. A glorious shade of pink. Her nipple was peeking through that white cloth. She was seriously not even wearing a bra. "Oh dear, what's the matter? You've fallen silent all of a sudden. Don't you like my outfit? If you're wondering why I'm wet, I had to soak myself for the ritual. Does it bother you?" Akeno paused, deliberately stroking her chest with her hand. I could feel something pulsating between my legs. "No, not at all. It looks great on you," I hurriedly exclaimed. I couldn't help but stare at her breasts. That translucent cloth was too intense. Huh? Don't tell me she's naked down there too. My gaze turned to Akeno's hips. I was speechless. She really was naked. Probably. She wasn't the least bit embarrassed, nor did she try to cover herself. Heck, judging by her expression, she looked like she was enjoying this. "Shall we begin?" Issei, hold out your left arm. Right. Thank you for doing this." To dispel the dragon's power inside me, Akeno had to. I will draw out the dragon's power accumulated in your arm by sucking directly on your fingers. Once I'm finished, your arm will temporarily return to its original shape. Yeah, the technique involved literally sucking the dragon's power directly from my body. In my case, Akeno and the Prez both used their mouths to extract it through my fingers. With an obscene sound, Akeno took my index finger and inserted it into her mouth. I didn't have any words to describe what an attack on the senses it was. I'd gone through this a few times, but I still couldn't get over how incredibly soft, warm, moist sensation of a girl's mouth was. Akeno wasn't just sucking on the fingertips, she was putting real force into it. It felt really, really good. Damn, my mind was taking me to lewd places. It was too good to be true. Suddenly, I become a star of a scene from a porn DVD. It almost seemed like Akeno was deliberately making those lewd sounds, as if she was trying to savor my reactions to the fullest. I couldn't move at all. I just sat there, my face blushing in ecstasy, letting the pleasure of that incredible sensation whisk me away. I'll remember this for the rest of my life. After thinking about it for a moment, I realized that we probably have to keep doing this regularly forever. This was a new high. If I hadn't given up my human arm for a dragon one, I would never have been able to enjoy this. Drake, I owe this triumph all to you. It was such an erotic sensation, but I could feel the power in my left arm surging as, little by little, it flowed through my fingertips and out of my body. As it did so, my arm gradually began to feel lighter. It grew nimbler and more flexible. I felt Drake's presence fading inside me too. Maybe I was really only able to communicate with him when I had a lot of dragon power in me. My thoughts were suddenly interrupted as a moan of pleasure escaped my lips. Look, I couldn't help it, okay? Akeno had started licking the tip of my finger with her tongue. Out of nowhere, her tongue was rippling between my fingers. Akeno? When I glanced at her face, I saw that she was wearing a mischievous grin. She had clearly gone into full sadism mode. A thread of saliva dripped from my fingers as it left her mouth. Whoa, this was way too lewd. Oh dear, if you keep acting so cute and innocent, you're going to make me want to take this little service even further. Service? Yes. There's nothing wrong with doting on one's underclassmen, is there now? She moved on to the next finger, edging her body closer. Whoa, Akeno, hold on. What are you doing? She ignored my obvious panic, however. With a bewitching, mesmerizing smile, Akeno wrapped her arms around me in a hug. The scent of her lustrous black hair filled my nostrils. She was letting off a delightful feminine fragrance that made my manhood quiver in excitement. I was already naked from the waist up, so I could feel her female flesh directly through her soaked gown of hers. The water left the fabric cool to the touch, but it didn't drown out the warmth of her body. The temperature difference was so erotic that it made my head spin. Her body is so soft. What's more, there was only a flimsy piece of cloth between her breasts and me. Blood suddenly gushed from my nose. How could it not have? No matter how many liters of that life-giving liquid flowed through my nasal cavity, it wouldn't have been enough. I'm really interested in you, Issei. Even like this. Akeno whispered alluringly in my ear. In me? Yes. I thought you were cute the moment I first saw you. But lately, my feelings have evolved. During your fight with the Phoenix, I watched you from a monitor in the treatment room as you pulled yourself up again and again. All right. Akeno had been retired from the battlefield before the match had concluded. Those knocked out of the rating game were sent to a special area set aside for medical treatment. And as you stormed into the engagement party to rescue the president and defeated the supposedly immortal Riser all by yourself, it's quite arousing seeing a gentleman perform so magnificently in combat. Arousing? Akeno looked me squarely in the eye and let out a light giggle. Sometimes, when I think about you, a warm feeling rises up in my chest. And when I'm entertaining you like this, Issei, my teasing instincts take over. Perhaps this is what it feels like to be in love? Love? Wait, is she teasing me? Does that make this sexual harassment? The world sure is filled with unexpected marvels. But if I lay a hand on you, I might upset Rias. She really, well, you're important to her. You're quite a sinful boy, Issei. Sinful? Me? I was ready to suffer any punishment I deserved if it meant more time like this with Akeno. Wait, did Akeno just call Prez by your name? Maybe they referred to each other by their first names in private? They'd known each other longer than the other members of Prez's familia. At that moment, Akeno put a hand behind my neck. That's not all. She was deliberately letting her gown slip off. I could literally see the plump, peach-colored tips of her right nipple. She was boldly baring her legs to me, too. Would you be willing to have an affair with me? An affair? Behind whose back? That's such an incendiary word. Don't worry. I know how to keep a secret from the president and Asia. You're burning with desire, no? This can be our little secret. My nose wouldn't stop gushing blood. I want to know how it feels to be carnally devoured by a younger man, at least once. This might surprise you, but I like to be a masochist sometimes too. And I've been thinking it's about time that I let a man inside me. Cut it out, please. Those poisoned words are super effective against me. Hold on. What did she say? Akeno, are you saying that you're a... Yeah, I'm a virgin. I'm sure you have much more experience than I do, Issei. So, I would love it if you would take the lead. I mean, I don't have any experience either. Akeno looked startled at my embarrassing confession. Oh, that is a surprise. I was sure you've done it with the president. I haven't. I mean, I don't even know if I'm the right person for her first time. Oh dear. I wouldn't have expected the president to fall behind the curve. What about Asia then? No. I couldn't lay a hand on either of them. Although the exact reasons were a bit different. I decided entirely on my own that it was unforgivable for me to defile someone like Asia, who I'd sworn to protect. I thought the president said that she had a generous reward in store for you every night. Oh dear, this is a surprise. Huh? What was that supposed to mean? She was talking about the kind of situation where a high school kid could have a myriad sexual desires satisfied all at once, right? Don't you want to do it with them, Issei? Of course I want to. So much. I have to fight the urge to push the press down on my bed. I've never been able to make it to the finish line, and I end up crying myself to sleep every night. I want to have sex with the press and Asia. That was it. I laid my heart plain for Akeno. It might have sounded ridiculous, but that was how I felt. I was a healthy boy living with two beautiful young ladies. Obviously, I was lusting after the both of them. You poor thing. Oh dear, they do sound rather slow in taking the initiative. There shouldn't be anything stopping either if they really want to do it with you. I suppose it would be wrong for me to take your chastity, but If you give me permission. Uh-oh. Was she going all the way? Maybe I said too much? Am I about to graduate from being a virgin? Have I made some kind of terrible miscalculation? All of a sudden, the door of the room burst open. Standing in the doorway was the Prez. She was scowling at us. Akeno, what's the meaning of this? She demanded as she approached. Her voice was seething with displeasure. Whoa, she's really upset. I'm just extracting Issei's dragon power. Akeno replied nonchalantly with a carefree smile. Really? No matter how you look at this, it seems like you're trying to take things somewhere else. Oh dear. You didn't think we were actually going to move on to the real thing, did you? Even if you weren't, you're taking this too far. I still haven't... The Prez's voice trailed off. Aren't you moving a little too slowly, President? It's fine to study your books, but real life isn't like following a manual. The two of them glared menacingly at each other. Okay, maybe they didn't go that far, but they were definitely trying to stare each other down. I could literally feel their intensity. The atmosphere had grown very tense all of a sudden. I hurried to put my shirt on, being extra careful not to bump into Rias or Akeno. No sooner had I done so, than the Prez turned her scowl to me and pinched me hard on the cheek. Seems like you enjoyed yourself today, Issei. Did you get to know more about your dear upperclassman lover Akeno? I wasn't... Rias was still pulling at my cheek, so I could hardly get my words out. Even if she hadn't been, it wasn't very manly of me to make excuses. Akeno might have me at her mercy, but I was willing to participate. The Prez puffed out her cheeks as if to say, do whatever you want, and then turned heel and stormed out of the room. She threw the door shut behind her with a tremendous force. It was pretty obvious that she was furious. The question was, why? Was it because that we were leading towards a lewd development between Akeno and me? I must have been wearing my bewilderment on my sleeve. As Akeno whispered, she's cute when she's jealous. Perhaps she would help you advance your relationship. What's that supposed to mean? What is going to advance? Had the Prez thought she was going to lose me to Akeno? No matter what happened, I was always going to be her servant, never Akeno's. That said, Rias was really cute when she puffed out her cheeks angrily like that, just like Azia. After a long day of schoolwork and club activities, Azia and I were on our way home. Normally, the Prez would have joined us, but not today. That incident with Akeno was definitely to blame. I'd actually asked Rias if she was going to walk home with us, but she hadn't even looked at me when she answered. Later, you go first. Her tone had been barbed. Does she hate me now? It pained me to even consider the possibility. Maybe this is how a pet dog felt when it angered its owner. Sad, forlorn. The president isn't coming with us? Ozzy asked. Oh, I guess I upset her. What happened? Ozzy inquired, clearly worried. There was no way I could tell her without making the situation even more complicated. It was my fault. I'll apologize later. You don't need to worry about it, Azia. Alright, but it might be my fault. I've been talking to her a lot lately. Azia's voice was apologetic. There was no mistaking that she saw Prez as a rival, but I was certain that didn't have anything to do with Rias' sour mood. No, what happened with Akeno caused this. It's okay. I don't think she's upset with you. I did something I shouldn't have, I assured. I was such a pervert. I had thought the Prez had taken a tolerant view on my sexual inclinations. She never said anything against my dream of becoming a harem king after all. It was strange. She's been acting a little weird lately. Perhaps that was because she was possessive of her servants. It was like the mixed feelings you get when someone else took care of your beloved pet. Even if the prez doted me, I was still her servant. If just one girl could get me like this, what chance do I have of ever becoming the harem king? Damn it, I thought. Is this why I've never been popular with the ladies? Who could have imagined that a maiden's heart was so complex? If I couldn't plumb their depths, I'd never be able to surpass those pretty boys. Thoughts were still trembling about in my head when Ozzy and I arrived home. Before I could even open the front door, however, an inexplicable chill caught a hold of me. The feeling was strange. It was like my whole body was signaling imminent danger. I'd felt the same thing outside the church when I first met Azia. The sight of that building had made my body tremble with trepidation. Quaking, Azia latched onto my hand. It looked like she was sensing the same thing I did. Our demon senses were sounding alarms in our mind. Just who was in my house? Don't tell me. Mom! An image of my mother in mortal peril flashed through my mind. With urgency, I threw open the front door. Quickly taking off my shoes, I dashed for the kitchen. This can't be happening. Mom, did someone find out I was a demon? Who? A fallen angel? God? A regular angel? Someone from the church? All of them are incredibly dangerous. They'll cut down anyone with even a passing connection to me, without so much of a second thought. The image of the potential client who'd been butchered by that psycho priest Freed Selzen surfaced in the back of my mind. I can't let that happen to my mom. Damn it. Whoever you are, quit screwing with me. Mom wasn't in the kitchen. Something that sounded like laughter echoed through the living room. I hurried there as fast as my feet could carry me, and I was greeted by the sight of my mom chatting with two unknown women. And this is Issei back in his elementary school days. See here? This is when he tore his swimming trunks in the pool. Oh, it was terrible. Even with that gaping hole in them, he still went down the water slide. Mom? I murmured. Perhaps realizing I was watching, she turned towards me. Ah, welcome home, Issei. What's wrong? You look pale. Ah, thank goodness. Behind me, Ozzy sank into the floor with a muted thud. It was a huge relief to find my mom safe, but I still couldn't shake the feeling of unfathomable unease. That was only natural. My mother's two guests were wearing crosses around their necks. They looked to be about my age. The first was a chestnut-haired beauty, while the second had frightening eyes and a green highlight in her hair. They were both quite attractive, but I could tell from their mannerisms that they were no ordinary visitors. Both were wearing white robes. Surely, that meant that they were associated with the Christian church. Are they exorcists? This isn't good. We couldn't afford to fight here, not in front of my own mother. Hello there, Issei, said the chestnut-haired girl with a smile. The other young woman had a long object wrapped in cloth attached at her waist. That was it, the source of the tremendous sense of danger that continued to wash over me. My skin had goosebumps. It was probably some kind of demon-slaying weapon. Nice to meet you, I answered with a forced smile. The chestnut-haired woman raised an eyebrow at my consternation. Oh, don't you remember? It's me, she insisted, pointing at herself. Huh? I had no recollection of ever meeting anyone like her before. As I fumbled for a response, my mom held out a picture. It was one of me, the other boy, and the man with the holy sword. My mom pointed to the kid in the image, the one that I had been friends with back when I was small. This is her, Irina. I was surprised as well. You were so boyish back then, and now you look like a fine young lady you are. What? She's the kid in the picture? My family friend? My childhood friend? What? The kid in the picture was a girl? I'd always thought she was a guy. It's good to see you, Issei. Did you mistake me for a boy? I guess it can't be helped. I was a real troublemaker back then. Always trying to outdo the actual boys. It seems like we both changed a lot since we last saw each other. I suppose you never know what you might find when you reunite with a long-lost friend. Her words were hinting at something deeper. She knew I was a demon. I'm glad you're both alright, the press said as he embraced Ozzy and me. Irina, Shido, and the other girl from the church had stayed to chat for around 30 minutes before leaving. This was Irina's first time back in Japan in many years. Returning to her childhood home had left her feeling nostalgic, and she decided to drop by the house of her old friend. She said that her family moved to England because of her parents' jobs. No matter how you looked at it, her folks must have been involved with the church. Ozzy and I tried to stay out of the conversation as much as possible, leaving my mom to handle it. More than anything, I really didn't want Ozzy to come into contact from anyone from the church. I asked her to take care of something upstairs so she could retreat to her room. I was prepared to fight if it came to that, but it never did, thankfully. The Prez arrived home a little later. She burst inside, her face as pale as Ozzy as mine had been. After making sure we were both okay, she immediately went to hug us. Are you hurt? They didn't do anything to you, did they? Issei? Azia? She was genuinely concerned. We're alright, I answered. It seemed like they knew we were demons, but my mom's just a regular human, so I don't think they want to risk anything around her. We're both okay, President, Ozzy added in assurance. Rias hugged us both tighter still, as if she didn't want to let us go. Issei, thank goodness. If something would have happened to you and Azia, Sona wanted to speak to me after club activities, so I was with her. Members of the church have infiltrated the town, and they have holy swords. Rias had stayed late because of her talk with the chairwoman, but on the road coming back, she sensed an unsettling presence emanating from the house and rushed inside. The Prez readily admitted that she had been blanched with fear when she realized that a holy weapon was brought into the house. She was rattled. I assumed the worst. It was terrifying to think that my cute little servants might have come to harm. If anything had happened, I would have regretted it until the day I died arguing with you earlier. I'm sorry. I should have taken better care of you both. Gremories are known to be especially forthcoming to their affections. Drake's words from the previous night echoed in my mind. I could see that to be true. When Rias realized we were safe, she let out a sigh and broke down in tears. She really had been fretting about us. She had a minor clash with Ozzy earlier and gotten angry with me. Ozzy and I had both felt guilty at upsetting her. It looked like the Prez was just as troubled over that as we were. President, I'm sorry for talking back to you. I thought you were going to take Issei, and I didn't want to lose. Ozzy apologized. Rias flashed her a smile, patting her on the head. It's okay, she assured, embracing us with a warm hug. I could feel her love. Maybe now was a good chance to come out with a special request. Prez, your breasts? Yes, I know, Issei. You're such a sweetheart. No, Ozzy interrupted, pulling us apart. They felt so good, though. The three of us took a moment to cool down. Rias then cleared her throat before resuming her explanation of the recent events. According to Sona, who encountered those two girls earlier today, they want to negotiate with me, as this town falls within my territory. People from the church want to negotiate with a demon? I asked. The Prez nodded. That was surprising. The church viewed demons as their enemies. Wondering what they could want, I asked, are they here to make a pact? A request? I don't know what they're planning, but they will be paying us a visit in the clubroom tomorrow after school. Apparently, they swore before God that they wouldn't attack us in any way. Rias replied. Do you trust them? We don't have a choice. We have to give them the benefit of the doubt. It can't be easy for true believers like them to ask wicked demons like us for help. So, whatever they want, it must be serious. I have a bad feeling about it though. Supposedly, priests visiting this town have been slaughtered one after another. The Prez's eyes narrowed. Her expression was troubled. That was frightening. Even that psycho priest Fried Selzen had despised us with all of his heart. Surely, a true believer hated our kind even more. Something was about to happen. I could feel it. Even an inexperienced demon like me could sense that much. After school the following day, we members of Rias Gremory's Familia gathered in the club room. The Prez, Akeno, and 2 young women from the church occupied the sofas. The rest were gathered in one corner of the room, watching the guarded exchange between Rias and the 2 church officials. From the moment the women entered the clubroom, I found myself overcome with a chilling sense of trepidation. That was undoubtedly my demon instincts warning me of the danger those pair posed to us. Both Rias and Akeno wore solemn expressions. It was Kiba, however, who made me the most uneasy. He was glaring at the 2 women with a look of vengeful enmity. It gave the impression that he wouldn't hesitate to cut them both down if something was to happen. Honestly, he looked ready to do that with no reason at all. Kiba despised active adherents of the church. Considering his history with the organization, he was undoubtedly brimming with hatred right around now. Amid the atmosphere, it was one of the 2 visitors who broke the silence, Irina. Several days ago, the Holy Sword Excalibur, guarded by the Catholic Church, at the Vatican by the Protestant and Orthodox churches at their headquarters, was stolen. Excalibur was stolen? And what's that about the Catholics and the Protestants? Then I remembered learning something about different sects of Christianity once at school. How could Excalibur have been taken from the Catholic, Protestant, and Orthodox churches all at the same time, though? It couldn't have been kept in one place, right? The original Excalibur no longer exists, the Prez explained, as if in response to my unasked question. Seriously, it was like she was reading my mind. I'm sorry, Rias apologized. My servant has only recently become a demon, so would you mind if we explained the history of Excalibur? Irina nodded before turning my direction. Issei, Excalibur was broken a long time ago, during the Great War. Huh? Broken? A holy sword? But I thought it was supposed to be pretty famous. This is what it looks like now, continued the other woman with the green highlight in her hair. She lifted the weapon from her waist and pulled back the cloth, revealing a single long blade. This is Excalibur. As I looked the thing over, a terrifying chill ran through my flesh. Terror, apprehension, awe. The mere sight of that thing was enough to fill me with unspeakable dread. It was bad, seriously bad. I could tell right away if I were to touch that weapon, I would be killed instantly. So this is a holy sword. This is one of those lethal weapons used against us demons. Excalibur was shattered during the Great War. Its fragments have since been brought together to reforged into 7 new swords through the art of alchemy. This blade is one of them. That meant it wasn't the original Excalibur, but rather a new version that had been assembled from some of its remains. This is Excalibur Destruction. It is one of the 7 holy swords, forged from the original weapon, and it currently belongs to the Catholic Church. Having introduced her blade, the woman with a single green highlight returned it to its cloth. On closer inspection, the cloth looked to be covered with arcane, letter-like glyphs. Some kind of seal, maybe? Regardless, the sword was undoubtedly a dangerous item. Next, Irina pulled out what looked like a long cord from her pocket. Then it began to move, as if it had a mind of its own. Before my very eyes, It unraveled into a shape of a Japanese katana. Mine is Excalibur Mimic. It can change its form freely, so it's very convenient and easy to carry around. Each of the Excaliburs has its own unique power. This one belongs to the Protestants. Irina's voice was filled with pride. As I feared, the second Excalibur filled me with the same sense of dread as the first. It too was a deadly weapon to us demons. Irina, there's no need to divulge into the unique abilities of your Excalibur to these demons, is there? Oh, Xenovia, they may be demons, but we won't get anywhere if we don't establish a relationship with mutual trust, will we? Besides, my weapon won't be left at a disadvantage even if our demon friends know about its abilities. Irina was brimming with confidence that she would never lose to one of us. Still, these were two legendary Excaliburs in this very room. Whoa, this is heavy stuff. It was at that moment I realized the immense sense of pressure emanating from beside me. It was Kiba. He was glaring at the weapons and our two guests with a demonic hatred I had never seen before. Kiba bore a special grudge against Excaliburs. He probably never dared to imagine two of them to show up here. It was probably taking all he had not to lash out. Calm down, Kiba. Don't do anything foolish. The Prez was earnestly trying to negotiate with the hostile organization. If Kiba did anything to jeopardize that, we're all screwed. He had to watch himself, or we'll all get caught up in a fight. I'd never fought them myself, but I could tell there was no way we could go up against two Excaliburs without suffering some losses. And what do these stolen Excaliburs have to do with this town in a country on the far side of the world? Rias asked, unfazed. That was our Prez. Even faced with two holy swords, her attitude was as confident as ever. She was holding her ground. The girl with the scary eyes and the streak of green, Xenovia, was the one to respond. Including the weapon I am currently holding, the Catholic Church possesses 2 of the remaining 7 swords. The Protestants have the other pair, as does the Orthodox Church. The 7th and final blade was lost during the Great War between God, demons, and the fallen angels. Of those 6 remaining weapons, 1 from each Christian sect was stolen. From what we understand, the thieves escaped to Japan, to this very town. Hey, is she saying that this town is now the favorite haunt of a bunch of holy sword thieves? The Prez placed a hand on her forehead and let out a sigh. My territory is always full of surprises. So, who are these thieves? At this question, Zenovia's eyes narrowed. The Watchers of the Children of God, the Gregory. Rias' eyes opened wide in surprise. An organization that serves the fallen angels was behind that robbery? That goes beyond any ordinary slip-up. But if there were anyone who would want to take those weapons, it would be the fallen angels. Holy swords are of little interest to demons. We know who the main culprit was. It's a man named Kokobeel, a leader of the Gregory. Kokobeel. He's one of the top fallen angels and the survivor of the war. I hadn't expected you to give him the name from the Bible. The Prez broke into a soft chuckle. Wait, hold on. One of the leaders of the fallen angels? A single guy stole 3 Excaliburs? This was more than I could handle. Why would Irina and Xenovia come to us? They didn't expect us to team up, did they? We sent several priests to this town, hoping to infiltrate the group and locate the Excaliburs. They were all murdered. Seriously? Such violent incidents have been going on right under our noses? Does this mean Irina and Xenovia are asking for help? What other reason could they be seeking an audience with a high-class demon who rules this territory? Before I had time to wander any further, Xenovia laid it out plainly. Our request, or rather our demand, is none of the demons who inhabit this town interferes in our battle against the fallen angels who are responsible. In other words, we've come to warn you not to interfere in this matter. The press raised an eyebrow in surprise at Zenovia's manner of speaking. That's quite a way of putting it. Is that meant as a diversionary tactic? You don't honestly believe we would have anything to do with the fallen angels, do you? The very idea we would join forces with them to steal the holy sword. Our superiors don't think that that's outside the realm of possibility, Zenovia affirmed. The Prez's eyes seethed with chilling iciness. She was seriously angry now. That was understandable. 2 representatives from the enemy faction had come all this way, stepped foot in her territory, insisted she would not get involved with what they were doing, told her not to talk back to them, and suggested that she might have forged an alliance with the fallen angels. Her pride as a high-class demon wouldn't allow her to keep silent after such provocations. Our superiors trust neither fallen angels nor demons. The forces of God losing their holy swords would be cause for celebration among demons, wouldn't it? You have as much to gain from our loss as the fallen angels themselves. As such, it wouldn't be surprising to learn of an alliance. Thus, we are giving you this warning. We will annihilate anyone who in any way assists the fallen angel Kokubio. That includes the sister of the Demon King himself. Those were our superior's orders. Zenovia's tone of voice was unabashedly indifferent to Rias' icy glare. The fact that you know who my brother is means that you have connections with people in high places. In that case, allow me this response. I will never ally with any fallen angel. Never. In the name of the House of Gremory, I swear I would never insult our Demon King with such treachery. The 2 of them glared at each other defiantly. A moment later, Zenovia let out a soft laugh. That's good to hear. You should know that Kokubio is lurking in this town with 3 Excaliburs. If anything was to happen, we, and the Church of Authorities too, would be held accountable. That said, I won't ask for your help. If a demon, particularly the sister of one of the Demon Kings, were to join forces with us, that would upset the balance of the power among the 3 factions. At this, the Prez's expression relaxed somewhat, and she let out a silent sigh. The conversation between the 2 of them was a bit much for me to follow. And what about the representative from the Orthodox Church? The Prez asked. They are on standby. Should Irina and I fall, their task is to defend to the death of the 1 remaining Excalibur. So, you 2 are going to retrieve the Excaliburs from the leaders of the fallen angels alone? That seems quite reckless. Do you both have a death wish? Rias inquired. Her voice sounded especially dumbfounded. Irina and Zenovia, however, stared back with determination in their eyes. Yes, replied the former. I am with Irina on this. That said, I would prefer not to die. Are you saying that you came to Japan ready to lay down your lives? I see that your faith continues to defy all common sense. Please don't mock our beliefs, Rias Gremory, Irina responded. Zenovia? I suppose so. The church has decided that it would prefer to destroy the Excaliburs rather than let them remain in the hands of the fallen angels. At the bare minimum, our task is to ensure the fallen angels cannot use those weapons. We're willing to throw down our lives to accomplish that, if that's what it takes. Excaliburs are the only weapons that can stand up against other Excaliburs. Talk about determination. Was their faith that fed this resolve? It was pretty amazing. That said, I couldn't sympathize at all. Did they truly want to die for God that badly? Can you 2 pull it off alone? Rias pressed. We don't intend to die in vain, Xenovia stated fearlessly. That's quite the confidence. Do you have a secret weapon in your arsenal? We'll leave that to the imagination. Rias and Xenovia glared across the room at each other, bringing the conversation screeching to a halt. Irina and Xenovia glanced meaningfully at each other before rising to their feet. It's about time we go our way. Irina, let's go, Xenovia declared. Oh, won't you stay for a cup of tea? I would be happy to prepare a snack for you, the Prez offered. That won't be necessary, Xenovia declined with a wave of her hand. I'm sorry. Until next time, Irina bid. Refusing Rias' hospitality, the two of them turned to leave, but not before their gazes fell where Azia was sitting. I thought I recognized you back at Issei Hiyoto's house. You're the witch Azia Argento, right? I would have never expected to meet you here, said Xenovia. Azia visibly trembled at the sound of the word witch. That title clearly summoned up painful memories for her. Perhaps noticing Azia's reaction, Irina stated intently at her. So, you're the former holy maiden who had everyone up in arms? Your healing ability works on demons and fallen angels now. I heard of your exile, but it's quite the surprise to discover you've been made a demon. Azia stammered, unable to respond to the pair's inquisition. Don't worry, I won't tell any of the superiors that we saw you here. I'm sure the former followers of the Holy Maiden would be shocked to learn of your current situation. Irina's comment left Azia with a complicated expression. A former Holy Maiden is now a demon. How far they fall. Do you still have faith in our Lord? How could she, Xenovia? She's a demon. Irina stated with an exasperated look. No, I could smell it on her. Faith. That might be an abstract way of putting it, but I'm sensitive to these things. There are those who betray the Lord only to find themselves racked with guilt over their actions and unable to forget their devotion. I get that sense from her. Xenovia's eyes narrowed as she stared at Azia. Irina lit up with curiosity. Is that so? I wonder if Azia truly believes in him now that she wears demon flesh. Azia's expression turned sorrowful. I haven't abandoned him. I've always believed. At this, Xenovia thrust her cloth-wrapped bundle towards the former nun. I see. In that case, you won't mind if I cut you down here and now. I shall execute you in the name of the Lord. Sinful though you may be, he should forgive you if you are pure of spirit. An indescribable feeling welled up deep inside of me. As Xenovia approached, I stood between her and Azia. Don't touch her, I declared in a clear, unmistakable tone. If you come any closer, I won't hold back. You called her a witch, didn't you? I did. It's what the church regards her as. How dare she? I found myself grinding my teeth in rage at Xenovia's high and mighty attitude. Don't you dare say that. Not a single one of you did anything to help her when she needed it. You people don't appreciate her inner kindness. None of you would even be your friend. How is that supposed to be in the name of good? Do you think the Holy Maiden needs friends? Her only concern should have been fulfilling charitable duties. Anyone seeking friendship is unfit of a Holy Maiden. The love of the Lord should be enough. I guess Azia Argento never truly qualified as a Holy Maiden. Xenovia spoke as if lecturing a child who ought to have been known better. Damn her. What is wrong with these people? I can't understand them. I didn't want to understand them. How could they possibly say that Azia was the one at fault? So you people just decided to hold her up as a holy maiden all by yourselves and abandoned her because she didn't meet your idiot expectations? Can't you see that's messed up? I couldn't hold back anymore. I wanted to get this off my chest for a while. Now that I had some followers of God in front of me, I couldn't resist telling them off. You people have no idea what she suffered. What kind of God is he supposed to be? Where's this love of his? Your God did absolutely nothing when she needed him most. Xenovia smirked coolly as she replied, The Lord loves her. If nothing happened, this means the faith wasn't strong enough. Or perhaps she never truly believed in the first place. Is everyone in the church like this? Are these the kind of idiots Ozzy had to deal with? Unbelievable. What are you to Azia? Xenovia pressed. Her family, I responded boldly. Her friend, her companion. That's why I'll help her. I'll protect her. So if you try to lay a hand on her, that means that you'll be my enemy. I'll take you all down if I have to. Zenovia's eyes narrowed at my confrontational attitude. Is that a challenge to us? To all of those of the church? You have a loud bark for one measly demon. Perhaps you haven't trained your servants well enough, Gremory. Issei, don't. The press began, trying to calm me down. That's when Kiba intervened. Fine, I'll take you on. Kiba had drawn one of his swords. His whole body emanated with savage, murderous aura. And who are you supposed to be? Xenovia asked. Kiba flashed her a dauntless smirk. I'm your senior, but apparently I was a failure. At that moment, countless demon swords burst into existence throughout the room. I couldn't fathom for the life of me how we got to this point. I was standing in the clearing behind the old school building that we used when practicing for the ball tournament. Kiba was next to me. Across from us stood Irina and Xenovia. It was like a standout from a movie. A crimson magic barrier had been raised around the four of us. The other club members were watching from the outside of the barrier. Should we get started then? Irina and Xenovia took off their white robes, revealing that their bodies were fully clothed in a black combat gear. They weren't showing any skin, but the armor was still erotic in its own way. It highlighted their proportions, and it looked almost like a kind of thing that you would find in a bondage roleplay. By the way, they both had nice curves and wonderfully typed hips. What's more, Xenovia had removed the cloth that she used to sheath her Excalibur. Irina's shape-changing Excalibur had taken the form of a Japanese katana. I suppose I should explain how we'd wound up like this. After I started arguing with the two holy sword wielders, Kiba had decided to butt in, essentially throwing a match into the tinderbox. Given that it was her own servants who initiated the fight, not even the press could bring the situation under control. That was when Xenovia had come up with a proposal. Testing the strength of Rias Gremory's Familia could be fun. I am interested in the powers of my senior too. Xenovia had accepted Kiba's challenge. As this was a private duel, she guaranteed us that she wouldn't report anything that came of it to the church. She and Irina seemed to have a basic understanding of our situation, and so decided that there wouldn't be a problem as long as we didn't end up killing each other. The training area behind the old school building had been chosen as a location. To prevent unnecessary destruction and shield the duel from prying eyes, Akeno had established a barrier around the area. With it in place, we could afford to cut loose a little. Kiba had been the one to draw first, but for some reason, I was going to fight too. Why? I wondered. I hadn't been trying to start a fight when I stood up for Azia. Sure, I was upset about the things Xenovia had said, but I never intended to get caught up in a duel like this. I meant to drop the matter back when the press indicated to me to stop, but then, well, Kiba had ended up adding fuel to the fire, and this was the outcome. Issei, this may be just a match, but be careful of their holy swords, the press called out. Right, I replied, my heart ringing out with gratitude for consideration. I was trying to act cool, but I was trembling with trepidation. I had made to watch a video called The Holy Sword Terrorist Special Collection. It was a collection of recordings of battles between Holy Sword users and high-class demons. Whether one of those high-class demons sustained a wound from the Holy Sword, smoke rose up from the injury. Then the dismembered parts of the body just completely vanished. They were literally gone, annihilated. Holy swords had the power to destroy demons outright. Not even corpses were left behind. Those weapons were seriously terrifying. I didn't want to get disintegrated. Kiba had already activated his sacred gear and summoned up a whole bunch of demon swords around him. "Are you laughing?" Xenovia asked dubiously. Kiba wore an uncanny smile on his lips. It was a faint, cold smile. There wasn't a single trace of his usual refreshing character about him. Does he really hate holy swords that much? Indeed. The one thing I long to destroy has appeared willingly before my eyes. I heard that hanging around demons and dragons was a surefire way to meet a high and mighty. But who would have imagined that it would happen so soon? Drake had said something similar. Supposedly, all sorts of individuals found themselves drawn to those possessed of the power of a dragon. Had I, or Drake, technically caused this? I didn't want to believe it. Sword Birth. A sacred gear that allows its users to create any demon sword that its users can visualize in their mind. A most unique and rare artifact. During the Holy Sword Project, there was subjects facing disposal who managed to escape. That was you, I take it. Kiba didn't respond to Zenovia's question. He merely readied himself. The murderous resolve in his eyes was palpable. Hey, Kiba, come on. Killing is off the table, right? It's just a match. If you go overboard, things can get ugly between demons and the followers of God. You know? You'll make trouble for Demon King Serzex too. Issei Hyoto, Irina Shido, the girl with the chestnut hair, was standing across from me. I had always thought she was a boy back when we were kids. But no matter how you look at her, she was clearly a woman now. I had only faint memories of my time with her though. She was a real beauty with a nice body. I couldn't deny that she was my type. It was quite shocking to discover my old friend had become a demon. She looked terribly disappointed. I hadn't expected to become a demon either, but I was still living life to the fullest. Irina Shido, is Irina alright? Do we have to fight? I've already gotten what I want to say off my chest. I kind of feel like this is really unnecessary. I've been wanting to voice what I thought about the church for a while. In a way, Irina and Xenovia helped lift the burden off my shoulders. Then again, I wasn't gonna hesitate if they kept bad-mouthing Azia. I wouldn't let anyone insult a member of my family. Irina, however, gave me a pitying look. A solitary tear round down her cheek. Poor Issei Hyoto. No. I'll call you Issei for old time's sake. I feel like fate is making fun of me right now. I had an affinity with the holy swords, so I traveled to England to answer my calling, and to be of service to the Lord. This must be one of his trials. I've returned home for so long, only to find my dearest friend has become a demon. What a cruel twist of the knife. The passage of time certainly can be unforgiving, but if I overcome this traumatic heartbreak, my faith would bring me that much closer to him. Step forward, Issei. With this Excalibur, I will judge your sins. Amen. Droplets had formed in the corner of Irina's eyes, but she pointed the tip of her holy sword my way with an overzealous force of will. Huh? What on earth is she saying? Whoa, her eyes are seriously sparkling. It almost looked like she was drunk on faith. Was she actually enjoying this turn of events? She clearly wasn't the kind of girl who was wise to get involved with. I don't understand it, but boosted gear, activate.
Boost!
A red flash of light burst from the gauntlet on my left arm. At the same time, a powerful voice boomed. My sacred gear could double its wielder's strength every 10 seconds. I could also channel the accumulated power into another person or object. Unfortunately, I needed time to charge it. I wouldn't be able to meet Irina's attack otherwise. Seeing me activate my sacred gear, both Irina and Xenovia looked legitimately surprised. Longinus? Is that a gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor? The boosted gear? What is it doing in this far eastern country? Irina and Xenovia frowned in consternation. You're going to get hurt if you let Issei distract you. Kiba lashed out at Xenovia. The collision of his demon sword and her holy sword produced a shower of sparks. Xenovia broke out into a dauntless grin as she met his attack head-on. Sarbirth, the boosted gear, and Azia Argento's twilight healing. 3 heretical sacred gears. Perhaps it was inevitable that you would all become demons. My strength is born from the will of the fallen comrades. Those who murdered in ignominy. I will use it to strike down anyone who wields an Excalibur and crush that accursed broken weapon into oblivion. Did Kiba vow to avenge the other test subjects killed during the Holy Sword Project? I'm coming for you, Issei. Irina launched with her blade. That was close. She's seriously trying to cut me down. If that thing hit me, it would do major damage to my demon body, right? A direct hit would be beyond bad. Not yet. As I evaded her oncoming strikes, I felt the strength in my gauntlet starting to rise up.
Boost!
Energy poured through my body, doubling my power yet again. It still wasn't enough to allow me to hold on my own, though. How much power am I gonna need, damn it? Not only did I have minimal combat experience, but this was my first time fighting against the Holy Sword. I had no idea what to expect. All I could do was keep trying to evade Irina's attacks while charging my energy until I could go on the offensive. With things as they were, there was little choice but to use my special technique. If I didn't, I wouldn't be able to stand my ground. Heck, I'm sure I would lose if I didn't. As soon as the opportunity presented itself, I was going to use my dress break attack. Dress break was one of my ultimate moves. I used my boosted demon powers to strip away the clothes of a garbed woman's body. I'm going to blast away Irina's combat outfit. What a lecherous face. I wonder what you're thinking about. Irina asked, dubious. Irina, I'm gonna worship every inch of your naked body. Please be careful. Issei has the power to blast away the clothes of any woman he touches. Konako? Why are you telling my enemy about my ace up my sleeve? I glanced Konako's way, entreating her to say no more. Undaunted, she added, You're the worst. The enemy of all women. That's harsh, Konako. What a base technique, Issei. Not only is your soul fallen to demonhood, but your heart has also sustained by evil. Dear God, I pray that in your divine wisdom, you will never forgive this sinful pervert. Irina collapsed her hands together in prayer, her expression filled with sorrow. Don't look at me like that. You're disgusting. I'm sorry, Konako. I'm really sorry for being a pervert. Issei, if you wanted a woman's body so badly, you should have told me. I would happily offer myself to you. Azia openly declared. What a dedicated sense of self-sacrifice. Azia truly had a heart of a former Christian. It was still a pretty audacious thing to suddenly burst out, though. I see. So you're a creature of carnal lust. To me, that seems very demonic way of thinking. Xenovia said with a sigh. Her words sounded calm, but her eyes filled with contempt. I'm sorry, Kiba apologized. What are you saying that for, Kiba? Don't act like I'm the evil creature here. He created another demon sword and gripped it in his free hand. Adopting a dual-wield stance, he faced towards Xenovia. Pull yourself together. I'm going to burn you to ash and freeze you where you stand. Firebrand, freeze mist. Flames began to whirl around the first of Kiba's demon sword, while the frost and the massive cold air shimmered around the second. Kiba was a knight, and a knight's core attribute was speed. He charged at Xenovia with a rapid barrage of strikes. Surprisingly, Xenovia somehow managed to dodge those oncoming attacks, bearing down from every possible direction, with the bare minimum of movement. The agility of a knight, and both fire and ice swords, not bad, but you shouldn't underestimate me. With a single swing of Xenovia's blade, both of Kiba's demon swords shattered into fine particles of light. Kiba was left speechless. What destructive power! So this is what the Holy Sword is capable of. My blade is the embodiment of destruction. There is nothing that can withstand its touch. Xenovia then swung her sword and thrust it down towards the ground. The earth shook violently beneath my feet. A deafening echo coursed through the field. I lost my footing and fell flat on my knees. The tremors were so bad that I couldn't get back up. Dust billowed around me, and clumps of dirt fell right in my face. I spat out the dirt that managed to get into my mouth, then lifted a hand to shield my eyes from the dust. When I looked up, I could hardly believe my eyes. A crater? Xenovia's holy sword had couched a huge, gaping hole in the ground. Did she do that with just one hit? A single swing from her blade? It hadn't looked like she put any particular effort into the attack. This is the power of my Excalibur. It's capable of devastating any rabble that gets in its way. It isn't called Excalibur Destruction for nothing. Excalibur Destruction. The thing is on a whole different level. Not even Kiba's demon sword can meet it head on without being shattered. Kiba looked over the ruins Zenobia's weapon had wrought. His expression was one of bitter frustration. And that's only 1/7 of the true Excalibur. I guess there's gonna be a lot of carnage if I'm going to obliterate all of them. The shadow of raw hatred hadn't left Kiba's eyes. Is he seriously hoping to destroy all 7 Excaliburs? Look what just one of them was capable of. Even for Kiba, a quest like that seemed insurmountable. I was starting to get sick of brushing up against these people who were so much powerful than we were.
Boost!
That was my third charge. Ah, Xenovia, why couldn't you give me some warning before breaking the ground like that? You got dirt all over me now. Irina spat out as she brushed dust from her clothes. The chestnut-haired girl turned back to me, brandishing her sword. Now then, let's finish this. Having made her declaration, she dashed my way. Irina was fast. She closed the distance between us in a flash. She might have not been as swift on her feet as Kiba, but she was undoubtedly speedier than I was. What should I do? Should I pause my Sacred Gear's charging cycle and go on the offensive? Even if Irina was trying to kill me, I would quickly burn out my stamina if I was keep dodging her attacks. Thankfully, I had at least accumulated enough energy to cope with my opponent's moves. I definitely still lacked enough to take her down though. There was no way Irina was going to give me the time to reactivate my Sacred Gear if I paused. My only hope was to evade her Excalibur while aiming for her body. No matter how powerful that weapon of hers was, Irina herself was still a normal human. "You're good," Irina exclaimed. "You know how to dodge. Your master has trained you well." "You could say that, but she can be a strict teacher. It's thanks to her that I can keep up with my opponents beyond my level."
Boost!
Let's do this, Boosty Gear.
Explosion!
I halted my charging process there, readying to fight myself with the power I had accumulated. If I didn't stop it, everything I gained up until now could get released, and I would have had to start over from zero. Raw energy coursed through my flesh. I had doubled my strength 4 times over, and I was confident that this was enough to take on Irina. The plan was to pour my energy into blasting off her clothes. Ah, I really was the worst. I hadn't gone through all that grueling training or faced off against Riser Phoenix and his familia to lose now. I swore to strip Irina naked. That was the only way. I charged straight for her, focusing my energy to blow that armor right off of her. Sorry about this. Ah, gross. Irina twisted her body to dodge my sudden attack as if fleeing from a groper. She was fast. I wasn't about to give up though. I didn't care if this made me a pervert. I had a vigorous, robust appetite. No, you don't. I was so preoccupied with stripping off her clothes that I found myself adapting to match her movements. Right, no, left. In the back of my mind, I could see where she was about to flee even before she moved there. It looks like Issei's movements are faster and more flexible, I heard Akeno remark. So his perversion can boost his physical stats this much, Konako murmured. By the sound of it, they were both impressed by my lecherous power. Sorry for being such a creep, I thought. Now that I had set my mind on stripping this girl naked, nothing could stop me. Finally, I caught up to my opponent. What? How did you match my movements? Irina cried. Never underestimate the power of a twisted mind. I caught you now. I'm gonna strip you down, Irina Shido. Your breasts will be mine to worship. My fingers wriggled in anticipation, and my mouth twisted into a lecherous grin as I inched closer, before going straight at her. And yet, before I could reach her, she ducked down. What? Unable to halt my momentum, I continued straight past her, right through Akeno's barrier, and into Azia and Konako. And yes, I touched them. My fingers brushed against both of their shoulders. At that instant, their uniforms came flying right off. Yes, not even their underwear was spared. They were both stark naked. My dress break technique had been a success. Azia's still maturing breasts and Konako's petite ones bounced gloriously before me. Blood gushed from my nose. Thank you. No, wait. This isn't what I wanted. Azia bent forward, concealing her body out of embarrassment. Sorry, Azia, but you still got some magnificent proportions. I'm looking forward to see them grow even bigger. As for Konako, she was expressionless, but there was an unmistakable murderous aura emanating from her. A trembling fist rose into the air. This isn't looking good. Konako, don't get the wrong idea. This was a mistake. Well, I mean, it worked out, but still, think of it this way. There's a demand for petite breasts like yours, right? No, what am I saying? You only got hit because Irina Shido dodged. I wasn't aiming for you or Azia, but still, thank you. I guess I should thank you for... Sick freak. A heavy blow slammed into my gut as a weightless sensation swept over my body. Suddenly, I was flying through the air. I hit the ground hard, rolling several times across the dirt before coming to a stop. Gah. She sure did some serious damage. It hurt so much that I wanted to stay down. Irina prodded my head softly with her index finger. Issei, are you still breathing? I think you received divine punishment. Perhaps you should seal away that obscene attack. Sounds good? No. I put all of my demonic talents into developing that technique. I'm going to keep stripping girls naked. You don't know how long I wrestled with that decision before working to develop this ability. Or one that lets me see through girls' clothes. I forced myself up to my feet, sluggishly confronting Irina once again. I'm going to keep fighting until I'm strong enough to blow girls' clothes off just by looking at them. I was fired up now. I rushed straight for Irina. I can't believe you're able to fight this hard on lust alone. Irina Shido, sex is power. Sex is justice. Lord, give me strength to resist this perverted demon. Amen. Irina adjusted her stance with the holy sword, then charged my way. I shifted my footing and tried to kick her legs out from under her as she lunged towards me with a slash. Realizing what I was trying to do, Irina leapt lightly into the air. I dug my feet into the ground, then shot up after her as I unleashed an inside uppercut. That blow, however, missed her chin and passed cleanly through the air. I missed. Irina's eyes twitched. She lashed out with a sideways swing of her sword, but I stepped backward to avoid it, leaving her to watch on in surprise. I'm sorry. I may have underestimated you a little. You move well. She complimented me with a stern expression. Whoa, hold on. Maybe I have a chance. No sooner had I thought that than my balance crumbled, and I fell onto the ground. What's going on? A feeling of absolute debilation swept through my body. I had always been able to endure a certain amount of injury in the past, but this was different. This time, I had no strength left. Damn it, what's going on? I glanced down to my stomach, only to see a small plume of smoke billowing into the air. Did she hit me with her holy sword? When? She must have grazed me during my last attack. Even a minor scrape had all but done me in. This is what a blow from a holy sword can bring. Even the smallest of strikes can sap the strength of demons and fallen angels alike. And that was only an extremely shallow wound. If I had struck you a little deeper, it might have been lethal. This was an extremely shallow wound? That's all that needed to bring me to my knees?
Reset.
My boosted gear had run out of time. Even the charged energy I accumulated inside me evaporated. I was back to normal Issei. If you managed one more power-up, you probably would have been able to avoid my last attack. You could have been an excellent opponent, but you try to use your sacred gear without properly understanding the difference in our power. That's why you lost. A mistake like that could be fatal on the battlefield. Damn it, I cursed. It was no good. I couldn't move at all. Had I lost? I conned and humiliated myself in front of Rias and Azia. I really was pathetic. Kiba let out a mighty roar as a new shape began to form in his hand, stretching into a length of a sword. Let's see which blade is more destructive. Will it be your holy sword or my demon sword? A huge two-handed weapon appeared in his hands. Believe me when I say, Kiba looked downright scary. Just how big was that sword? It was taller than Kiba was. It had to be over 2 meters long. Kiba began to swing the blade with ferocious force. Before the weapon could connect, however, Xenovia let out a disappointing sigh. Too bad. That was a poor decision. A violent metallic noise filled the air, and Kiba's weapon was sent flying. Its blade had been severed from its hilt. Xenovia's Excalibur shorn clean of Kiba's demon sword. Your strength lies in agility and the wide variety of weapons you have at your disposal, but you don't have the strength to wield such an ungainly blade, and trying to do so hobbles your movements. You want destructive power, but that isn't where your skills lie. I hoped you were capable of realizing that much. Xenovia brought the hilt of her holy sword down on Kiba's abdomen. It didn't look like it was a lot of strength behind it, but it sent a shockwave coursing through the battlefield. Even a blunt force strike from the pommel of that weapon had tremendous destructive potential from the look of it. Kiba fell to his knees, blood spurting from his mouth. I didn't even strike you with the edge of the blade to incapacitate you. Xenovia took a final scornful look at Kiba before turning to leave. Wait! Kiba reached out as if physically to hold her back, but it was clear to everyone watching that he already lost. Akeno released a barrier, dispelling the red aura surrounding the battlefield. The battle was over. My dear senior, try to keep your wits about you next time you face me. Rias gremory, Remember what we talked about earlier. Also, you might want to train your servants a bit better. They seem a little more than their base talents at the moment. Kiba was staring up at Xenovia with hatred in his eyes. Zenovia's gaze then shifted to me. And let me tell you something. The vanishing dragon has already awakened. What? I'm sure you'll meet sooner or later, but at this rate, you won't stand a chance. With that, Xenovia collected her belongings and made to leave. Ah, wait, Xenovia. Well, I guess that's it for now, Issei. If you want me to judge your sins again, just let me know. Amen. Irina made the sign of a cross with her hand and, with a parting wink, took off after her companion. The press closed her eyes. It wasn't hard to guess what she was thinking. Kiba and I had been completely crushed. Are you okay? Azia rested her hand on my stomach and healed my injuries with her sacred gear. She was wearing one of the spare uniforms kept in the old school building. Right, I blew her old uniform clean off of her. That green aura flowed out from her hands, enveloping me with the warmth and restoring my body. I made a fool of myself, Azia, I said with a forced grin. Azia, however, shook her head. You were fighting a holy sword. I'm just glad you weren't hurt worse than this. I was so scared that she would kill you, you know? I made her worry over me again. All I ever did was make her fret. Sorry about your clothes, I apologized. No matter how you looked at it, I was in the wrong there. Azia flashed me a bright smile, though. You were imagining something, weren't you, Issei? It's okay. You can do whatever you want with me. I could feel my eyes tearing up. Azia, I had no idea you trusted me so deeply. Even so, I hadn't been really thinking about anything other than stripping girls' clothes. But that grin of hers was too kind and dazzling. If you charged your sacred gear to the next level, you might have won. Konako said as she massaged my shoulder with her strength. She too had changed into a spare uniform. Ow, seriously, Konako, that hurts. Despite her obvious anger, Konako never said anything like that to me before. I was moved. You should have at least realized that much, but you don't have enough training or experience, and your mind is always in the gutter, sick freak. That really struck a nerve. It might be too late now, but sorry again for being such a pervert. Stop, Yuto, sounded Rias' voice from a short distance away. I turned in her direction only to see Kiba, seemingly anxious to leave, and the press trying to keep him back. What's going on? Was he trying to go somewhere? I will not allow it. You are a knight of the Gremory Familia. I won't allow you to become a stray. You're staying right here. I only managed to escape the church because of my fallen comrades. It's my duty to see the resentment and regret exacted with my demon swords. With those words, Kiba left the scene. Yuto, why? I couldn't bear to look at Rias' sorrowful face. In that moment, I realized what I had to do. So why did you call me here for? We had the next day off of school. I had called Saji, the pawn from the chairwoman's familia, to meet me outside the train station. He looked listless. The press helped me to get in contact with him. Right. What are you both up to? Konako asked. She grabbed onto my shirt, refusing to let go. I had bumped into her entirely by chance on the way to the station to meet Saji. When I realized it was her, I tried to make my escape, but she caught me without any difficulty at all. I was still physically weaker than such a petite girl. I suppose there was no helping that. The fact that I tried to run away from her must have aroused her suspicions, because she refused to let me out of her sight afterwards. She probably still resented me for destroying her clothes the other day. As for why I wanted to meet Saji out here, I coughed to clear my throat before cutting to the chase. I want Irina Shido and Xenovia to give me permission to destroy the Holy Sword Excalibur. Saji's and Akonoko's eyes opened wide in surprise at this declaration.